If you tell anyone, I'll kill you, and I'll kill your whole family.
If you tell anyone, I'll kill you and kill your family. I first heard them. Well, they were literally the first words he said to me after he raped me. If only I knew back then what I know now.
I grew up in Queanbeyan, which is a small town just outside of Canberra, which is the capital city of Australia. And it was summertime. It was just after Christmas. So me and my sister went down to the local swimming pool. I was 8 years old. She was probably 10 or 11. And, you know, we've done this 1,000 times before. We've been to the pool 1,000 times before, ride our bikes down, stay there all day, hang out with our friends. It was coming toward the end of the afternoon. My sister left a few hours early with her friends, and I'm like, sure, go, it's fine. I can ride my bike home. Again, I'd done it alone, on my own, a ton of times. End of the day, literally everyone had left. I walked into the change rooms and I was followed in there by this man. He followed me into the shower and he raped me in the shower.
Unfortunately, Nathan's story is not uncommon, but it is uncommon for a man to tell his story. And this is because of the demands that are placed upon boys and men in our culture that expects them to become strong. But it's when we tell our story that the healing begins.
I walked into the showers and he kind of just came up on me. I tried to get out. He kind of cornered me he cornered me into the corner of the shower. Again, I tried to get away and run away from him, but he shoved my head up against the wall. He turned me around and he raped me. And then I left my body at that moment. My body was numb. I disassociated myself with it and I could see myself looking down on it. It felt like it went on forever, probably went on for 30 seconds, I don't know. The child inside of me was gone, disappeared. He, at that moment, had to grow up. He just went deep within and he was gone. He was lost. I was lost. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to feel. I was scared. I was ashamed. I was scared. Like I said, it lasted, I don't know, 30 seconds, a minute. Felt like forever. And ever so calmly, he got up and just left the shower. Got dressed. Again, told me what he told me. His first words: if you tell anyone, I'll kill you and kill your family. And then he told me he'd see me again soon. And I stayed in the shower. He left. I sat in the shower again for what felt like forever. Eventually I got up, got out, got dressed, went to my bike. And I remember I was in too much pain to jump on my bike and ride my bike home, so I just walked my bike home. I got home and even then I'd pushed away from my family. I didn't want them to think that anything was wrong. You know, he told me that this is what they wanted, that they wanted me to be with him. And I remember going into the shower, having a shower. My mum made me go and have a shower after being in the pool. And my underpants were full of blood. There was blood on my underpants. So obviously I didn't throw them in the laundry basket. I kept them on me and I snuck them into the bin and threw them away. And went on with life.
A shocking statistic, and one that I sort of like to share because I want people to be shocked, is that 80 to 90% of sexual assault is committed by somebody known to the victim. If you stop and think about that, it's terrifying because it means it could be anybody. And this is, of course, sexual assault across a broad scale, not just for children. But it's, it's sort of terrifying because in the US, 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 6 boys are sexually assaulted before the age of 18. That's a lot. It's a lot of kids.
As a clinical psychologist specializing in trauma and bereavement in the lives of survivors, I found that one of the greatest difficulties after an abuse is something called an allegiance to the perpetrator. What happens is the child will likely cover up for his or her abuser, and what's developing is a need to protect himself from the shame he feels on the inside. What's done to him makes him hate himself, and that only gets strengthened by the statements of the perpetrator such as, "This was all your fault. I noticed you noticing me. This is what you wanted."
We were back at school, so it was the afternoon. I was at the bus interchange. And he just walked up to me, put his arm around me and walked away. And my best friend, when I spoke to my best friend about it, he thought he was just my dad or an uncle or someone picking me up to drive me home. He did it ever so calmly and nonchalantly and just walked away with me.
Another sign or symptom of abuse in the child after it has occurred is something known as identification with the aggressor. And many will ask, why will a victim not fight back? Or in more dire circumstances, if it's ongoing, why will they continue to let it happen? And there are 2 reasons I would give as an answer. The first is something known as tonic immobility, which is a symptom of PTSD where the child is literally struck dumb or mute with fear. They are paralyzed with dread. A second reason for the bond and why it continues and the child identifies with the aggressor is called grooming. It's when the perpetrator seduces and manipulates and lies and the child believes this is a healthy relationship. The seed has been planted.
I was probably going through a roller coaster of emotions. Anxious, scared, nervous, excited. I wanted to see him. I was curious about that whole incident and what was going to happen and if I was ever going to see him again. And I was lost. I was confused. He'd tell me how special I was and I was a special little boy. So I would go and look at all my friends and think how special I was because I had this person and that they weren't special and they were missing out. And I thought I loved him. I thought this man loved me and yeah.
Another coping mechanism that children will use after having been traumatized or victimized is called Stockholm Syndrome, which is an attachment that develops between the abuser and the abused, where the child actually has positive feelings towards his captor. This actually leads to belief that he is actually having loving feelings towards his abuser, and sometimes he thinks that his abuser loves him in return. What's dangerous about this is that the child, if the abuse is ongoing, will find himself searching for the abuser and reaching for what is a type of love that is unhealthy, but still makes the child feel important and needed.
I hated my abuser. But I wanted to be with him. I wanted to see him. I would ride my bike to his house and wait for him outside. I would ride my bike down and just sit there and hide behind the cars, parked cars across the street. He would come home from work sometimes and see me there waiting, and he would usher me into his house really quickly and hide me in there. And I guess because he was angry that I was there waiting for him, he would, throw me up against a wall and choke me out. He would hit me and slap me, punch me. He would make me pee my pants. So there was a lot of violence as much as there was sex as well. Abuse, I should say, as well. Sexual abuse. He would tell me that he loved me, and he would sit there and wait for me to tell him back, and I would never tell him that I loved him. And that's why it's hard for me to do it today. But he would sit there and say, I love you. And I would sit in silence. Just like this, I would just sit there in silence. And if I didn't say anything, he'd say, all right, well, I'm waiting for it. Tell me. I wouldn't tell him. And he'd smack me in the back of the head. He'd punch me. He'd slap me across the face. Until I said it, he would, squeeze my leg. So yeah, he wasn't a very nice man.
There are changes in the victim that the family may not always notice, but what they have to look for is a once confident child will become withdrawn, isolated, and find himself secretive and dark.
I remember we had a 3-person couch, so mum and dad would sit on the couch, and maybe my sister or my younger brother would cuddle up to him. And I was always on the single seater alone. I never wanted intimacy or connection or any love from my parents. They touched me, if they tried to kiss me or if they tried to hold me, I would just run away from it. I would push them away.
But yeah, there probably was a shift. But he was really quiet. He wasn't, I think now, again, on reflection, unless I went up to him and spoke to him, he probably was very much a recluse. And I think I probably just thought, though, that he enjoyed his own company at the time.
I hadn't seen him for a few months. So for a while I would ride my bike to his house and wait. He would never show up, so I would ride home. And then I saw a car out in the driveway. It wasn't his car. So I went to the door, I knocked on the door, and this lady answered, and she asked me who I was and how I knew her husband. And I remember her telling me that he was gone and I was never going to see him again. She asked me how I knew, and I ran away. He had already disappeared or left town, and she was there. I don't know what she was doing, packing up the house, cleaning up the house, whatever she was doing. And I think at that point she had an idea of who he was or what he was doing. And said he was gone and I would never see him again. So I jumped back on my bike and I rode away as fast as I could. And that's when, I guess, that's when a depression hit. That's when it really kind of sunk in and hit me. The feeling that my parents don't want me, but now he doesn't want me.
Eventually, the perpetrator will move on or disappear, and there are reasons why. He may have found interest in a new victim, or he may have gotten caught. And while the abuse is no longer happening, the pain and damage that was caused languishes in the victim, possibly forever.
So I moved to New York to study and become a professional actor, and I studied at HB Studio in the West Village, which is where I met my best friend Sam. things were good for a while, but I turned to drugs. I was shooting heroin, I was smoking crack, I was selling my body for sex.
I went to this club and picked up this guy, went into the bathroom with him. He went down on me, and I don't even know if I came. I really don't. But as soon as I was done, I just quickly turned around and started laying in him and beating him up. And it was the first time I was sorry for what I'd done. It's the first time I felt bad for what I'd done. And as I was doing it, as I beat him up and I turned and I looked at myself in the mirror, I saw the man for the very first time. I didn't see myself in the mirror, I saw him. And I realized, or I knew, that I was turning into this man. I knew that I was, what he put onto me, the trauma he put into me, I was now putting into others.
I realized it was now or never. I needed to tell someone about what happened to me. It felt like the only friend I had left was Sam, and we met at our favorite cafe. It was time for me to tell her my story. And I still couldn't talk to her. I still couldn't tell her what I needed to say. So I just sat there, and she was like, "What do you want? What's going on? I can't do this anymore." And she was about to get up to leave. I grabbed her and I said I was raped as a kid. I was abused as a kid. It was the first time I'd said those words ever. And it took about 25 years to say them.
Domestic and sexual violence as crimes are one of, if not the only crimes, where the victim is called the accuser. That inherently casts doubt on the person making the claim. So that's why it's so important. One of the most important things you can say if someone comes to you, your child, your friend, your neighbor, your coworker, and says something happened to them, the first thing you should say is, "I believe you." Because you may be the first person they're telling. They have lived in fear for however long, maybe decades, that no one will believe them. That's especially true with child sexual assault when it's an uncle or a family friend or someone that is important to the family unit. And you hear story after story after story of parents who didn't believe their kids for whatever reason. And so it's education for kids, for families, for parents, for teachers, for pediatricians. And it's not doubting the person telling you the story and letting them share their story with you. Try and listen without judgment. And then go find the proper help when that person is ready.
There comes a time in the survivor's life when they're ready for therapy, to develop a therapeutic attachment. And the reason it's important to work with someone who specializes in trauma is that the trauma therapist will notice that the two major signs of abuse are a sense of disconnection from others and disempowerment. So they work together in therapy to create greater connections that are healthy and also give the child a sense that he's in power of his life. The way it's done most effectively is by letting the child tell his story. And the more the child tells the story, the more it moves from the central definition of who he is to something that lives alongside of him as an unbidden companion through time. But what's wonderful about this is that he learns to love himself and become healthy.
So I went to her office and I went in there and I'm like, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to be fine. I'm just going to go in there and sit with her and tell her my story. But I went in there and the first thing I did before I even answered any questions, I don't remember her first question. Or she probably just said, "So tell me what's going on."
And I just burst out crying, and I literally cried for half an hour, telling her my story. And then we just sat there for a good 10-15 minutes in silence. And I was exhausted, I was done, I was spent. I let it all out, and I had nothing left. And then we started talking again, and she asked me a few more questions about my family in Australia and stuff like that. A little bit more about this guy, about the man who abused me. And it was scary, and it was hard, and it got harder because I was in the fight with her, and I was in it now. It's not like, yep, I've told my story, I've finally told someone, then I can walk away. And at times I felt more alone. At times I felt more disconnected to the world, like no one knew me and no one wanted to know me. I wanted to hurt myself again. I wanted to hurt others again. I wanted to act out. But I stayed in there with her, and she was amazing. It was the first time where I felt safe. I was in a safe space, and I didn't know this woman, but I trusted her fully. And also, it was the first time where I was able to just be completely honest and open and let it out, no judgment. And that's what I did. I told her everything.
Another therapeutic process that's very important is for the survivor to tell the family. And this is because in telling the family, he becomes released or freed from the prison of shame and silence that he was living in. But it also forces the family to become integrated and work together to help the child or the adult who was hurt as a child. Unfortunately, not every family can hear this. Perhaps culture or religion forbids that this is talked about. But when a child can say or an adult can say what he has been through to someone who listens and hears them, he gets to hear the most powerful words in the English language. I believe you. And when those words are heard, the healing takes place.
You know, my parents, when they came to New York, we went to dinner. We went to a quiet restaurant. We sat outside alone, away from everyone. Funny story, but not. I said, listen, there's something I need to tell you. I'm not a parent, but I'm sure a lot of parents could relate to this if their son said this. The first thing my mum said to me was, you got a girl pregnant. I'm like, no. No, you owe someone money. No, you're in trouble with the police, or, you know, all those parent questions. And I'm like, no, please, just be quiet and listen. And I said, I was abused as a kid. I was raped as a kid. She goes, don't be silly. We didn't rape you. We didn't hurt you. And that's what I said. No, it wasn't you. It happened at the pool, and it happened when I was 8 years old. And then the first thing she wanted to know was the who, the what, the when, the where, all the details. In real life, my dad is such a softie. And my mum, she's a tough woman. And she would be the one who disciplined us. And it was the first time ever I saw the roles reverse. For the first time ever, I saw my dad just angry and wanting to kill someone. And ask, who is he? I want to kill him. And that's not my dad. My mum just burst out crying and wanted to give me, or she did give me, the biggest hug that I'd ever received. Just wanted to hold me and embrace me and love me and take care of me. And I just wanted to get out of it straight away. It was so weird and awkward, and again, because I've never had affection, or I've never wanted affection from my family, from my parents. So to have this amazing amount of affection and love from my mum kind of freaked me out, kind of made me go, whoa, oh, I need to get out of this. I can't do this. I don't like this. It felt uncomfortable. And then we went home shortly afterwards. And what broke my heart was Mum and Dad slept in my room, I slept on the couch, and I could hear my mum crying through the night. And that's what fucking broke my heart. That's what got me. And then we didn't speak about it for about 6 months.
People often think it can't happen to me, it can't happen here, it can't happen to my kids. My neighborhood, I know all my neighbors, we're all friends, we all spend time together. The truth is that it could happen anywhere. Everyone is vulnerable. And I sort of hate to say that because it takes away a sense of safety. This idea that it can happen to anybody is what makes it so important to do the education and to make it safe and normal for people to talk about this with their kids, with each other. And that's how we can really make progress.
You know, we can all get through anything we really can, as much as we think we can't, as much as we think we're done, as much as I've wanted to and I've tried to kill myself and thought I couldn't go on anymore. Being able to speak up about it is what saved me, is the most powerful thing. Owning my truth, and owning my past, and owning my relationship with this man and with my family and understanding it. I wouldn't change a thing. As ugly as it was and as painful as it was. Because my journey now is to educate the world.
It's important that the victim begins to teach the world what he or she has learned. Because in teaching, many things happen. Number one, others who have not had the courage to release themselves from their own prison of shame will receive the medicine that comes from the man or woman who's been through this and has healed a bit. Secondly, in telling the world and teaching them what they've learned, they begin to discover a place of forgiveness, but forgiveness for themselves, for the things that were done to them were not done by them. And if they can forgive themselves, they can start making new connections, and through connections, they learn how to have a safe and healthy love.
I had to forgive. I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive myself for the hurt I put onto others and the hurt that was put onto me. And I had to forgive him. And that's a hard one because I don't forgive him. I'm human. I'm never going to forgive him. But I had to, if that makes sense. In order for me to move forward, in order for me to find peace, to get closure, to find that joy and that peace within, and to find that intimacy within myself, I had to forgive. Otherwise, that anger and that hatred was going to build and build and build, and I would have done something bad. I would have hurt myself, or I would have hurt someone else. And in finding that peace, I was finally able to let go of a lot of scar tissue, a lot of shame, a lot of I just thought about my family. And that's what gets me, is my family. My parents. My brothers and my sister. Me, I'm okay. But it's my family.
Because they're the sweetest people in the world. And they didn't deserve what I put them through or yeah, that's what gets me, is my family.
Do I see some redemptive changes and do I have hope for the future? Of course I do, because in the last 5 years I've definitely seen a big difference. Since he has told the world, he's definitely lighter. And I think he's never had purpose. He's always been the one in our family who's a little bit lost in the world. But I can definitely see, since sharing his story, he has more purpose. Definitely, 100%. I think it's nearly giving permission to all the other men and women, children, teenagers, adults, to share their story and to know that that's okay. And there's no shame in that. And sadly, there are so many more people coming forward and sharing their story. So it's a lot more common than what we actually know or think. So more of it needs to happen. So I think for Nathan, if he can share his story and save people's lives and save families so that they can stay together and not be ripped apart by all of this pain, what an amazing life then he's led, and also what an amazing gift he's able to give to so many people. He is going to be okay. He really is.
Closure is perhaps the most important part of the therapeutic journey after an abuse. And for me, it involves what I call the 4 R's. The first being restructuring the story of their childhood through now healthier, more adult eyes. Secondly would be reconnecting with people who are safe and loving. And third is to restore justice, either done through a judicial way where people meet each other, perpetrator and victim, and discuss this, or more carefully and safely through metaphor. And in performing that ritual act or metaphor, you can reach the 4th R, which is reclaiming your voice. There are no more secrets anymore. And the child or the adult who has that sad child inside of him can grow and realize his life is his to live.
One of the things that helped me get closure, and this is another thing that came about in group therapy, was our therapist asked us to write a letter to our trauma or to our abuser or to whatever it was we wanted to write a letter to, and to do what we want with it. We can burn it, we can keep it on us forever, take it to our grave, give it to a loved one, whatever we wanted. In our own time, when we were ready. It took me about 6 years to write that letter. I went back to Australia, sat in my bedroom. I found the toy car that this guy gave me. He gave me one gift, if I can call it a gift. He gave me one item, he gave me one thing. And that was a toy car, little toy tow truck. I sat at my old desk in my bedroom and I wrote this letter. So I went to the park, the Queanbeyan Park, which is close by, and I sat there. And I just sat with my feelings and sat with my thoughts and sat with this letter in this car for a while. And I didn't want to give it to anyone. I didn't want to give it to a loved one. I wanted to give it to him. I wanted him to have it, even though he was dead. So I sat there and I made myself a little fire and just put the car and the letter in the fire. And the ashes took it up to the heavens, or to wherever this guy was. And that was, I guess, the closest thing I've had to closure. The closest thing I've had to, find closure and move forward with that chapter. Another thing in therapy, it was in individual therapy. My therapist said to me, if I could go back and speak to my 8-year-old self, what would I tell him? Today, as an adult, what would I tell him? And I ummed and ahed about it for a while, and I couldn't find the answer. And then it just kind of hit me, and it came to me. And I would tell this little boy, I would tell myself that it wasn't my fault, that it wasn't his fault. You know, for my whole life, I lived with so much guilt and shame and self-sabotage and anger toward myself that it was my fault, that I deserved it. But once I was able to say those words, it changed me. It changed the way I felt about it all. About him, about me, about life. And that was a big part. Those two were two big, significant moments in my life, in my healing journey, and in my just journey of moving forward.
I think the work that Nathan is doing is incredible. I think it is so brave in our society today to, as a man, be willing to show weakness, vulnerability, to show hurt, and in his case, triumph over that. Because that's also important, right? Nathan's work is meaning that this is not defining him, right? He wants to make sure that people know what happened to him so that others like him, and there are, whatever statistics there are way more that are just not reported. We know that for a fact. So Nathan's work will help so many other people know it's okay to tell someone. And that's what we want. Because once it comes out, well, then you can start managing the situation, helping the person, but also having an open dialogue about it. That to me is the most important thing. If we can really start to have conversations around certainly domestic violence and sexual assault, but for sure child sexual assault, and for sure child sexual assault that happens to males, without trying to put it in a box. If we can have these open dialogues, then we can make progress.
In making this documentary, I've realized, plain and simple, that I still have so much more work to do. That's it. I think that's it. It's f***ing that simple. I think I'm in a good place. I know who I am, but there is still so much more work I need to do to get to where I want to be. You know, as much as I knew that this is an everyday thing, it's not a quick fix, doing this documentary has really cemented that in. It's made me realize that, yes, I need to continue on this journey of discovery and healing. But also to be proud of who I am and what I'm doing. Yeah. Because it's been a hell of a journey. But the journey's just beginning.